He's got one foot in the frying pan and one in the pressure cooker. Believe me, as a bowler, I know that right about now, your bladder feels like an overstuffed vacuum cleaner bag, and your butt is kind of like an about-to-explode bratwurst.
Hey, do you mind? I wasn't talking when you were bowling.
Was I talking out loud?
Welcome to Munsons at the Movies. My name's Kyle. Once again, be your host. Here with the rest of the Munsons. Want to give them a wide berth.
He's what is called a born loser. A real Munson.
And talk a little bit about what's going on their side of the pond. Case.
Aren't we all on the same side of the pond, I guess?
Yeah, dude, seriously. What the fuck are you talking about?
Trying to change shit up this week, bro. Okay.
Kyle's going straight. He's going strictly east and just going around that way.
It's been in the high 50s, low 60s, and rainy lately, or as I keep telling everybody around here, a nice Minnesota summer. We're in good shape down here in Texas.
That's good to hear. James.
I took 2.5 hours for me to vote today. We filmed this before the election results are final. So if the person I voted for won, this hellish world we're living in is finally over and we can breathe a sigh of relief. And if the person I didn't vote for won, this will be my suicide note. And so I love my family and I'm sorry it had to end this way.
Oh, fuck. It just got dark in here.
Yep.
All right, Warren.
Your last will and testament on an episode of Munsons in the movies.
Follow that one up, bud.
Yeah, this is actually before Halloween, and I've got outfit and everything all prepped. We're doing a family outfit. My son's gonna be Charlie Brown. We're gonna color our dog like Snoopy, and I'm gonna be Linus, and my wife's gonna be Lucy. So we're gonna be a little Peanuts King. It's gonna be awesome.
That's awesome.
That's
It's gonna be real good.
What's your favorite Halloween candy, Warren?
Fuck, anything but Milk Duds.
I agree.
Wait, candy corn even?
Yeah, I mean, if more than Milk Duds.
Milk Duds suck. I wholly agree with that. Wholly agree.
I also think candy corn gets unnecessarily hated on. Is it good? No, but it's not as bad as some of these other candies. Like Good and Plenty's been getting made for years, and I don't know a single person who likes that shit.
I don't mind having one candy corn. It's like it's Easter. I'll have a peep. I'll have a candy cane at Christmas. It's just how you know what season it is by what's available.
I'm going to be really popular this year for Halloween because I'm only going to hand out Valentine's candy.
8 months overdue, huh? Don't check the expiration date, kids.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Or 4 months early.
Yeah, that's going to be really wild having a bunch of like elementary kids getting candy that says "Be mine" from a middle-aged man.
Rigby.
Yeah, not much on my end, but I also voted yesterday. It took me about 10 minutes. I don't know how I got lucky, but I'm ready for the election. Ready for the election to be over. I'm sick of seeing political ads every 5 minutes. So it's going to be the longest week of our lives until Tuesday, but I'm ready for it.
On my end, I enjoyed some delicious $5 sushi tonight. Took advantage. Oh yeah, cheap.
The good stuff.
But
R.I.P. your butthole, man. That's terrible.
I may have had 4 of those containers worth too, so I split them.
Oh.
So 2 technically, if you want to do the math.
$20 sushi.
Yeah, pretty much.
I would have just gotten good shit for $20 instead of 4 or 5.
I went in only planning to get 2 of them. I was like, they're usually like $7-8, but I saw it was $5, and I went, time to splurge, boys. Time to stock up on shitty sushi. Let's go.
Of all the things not to splurge on discounted, you got seafood. You don't splurge on that or discounted condoms. You just don't do it.
Are expired, yeah. But I'm happy to welcome our next guest, Munson. His first appearance on the podcast. Dames Marvs is with us.
Nice. Welcome, Dames.
What up, Dames?
How you doing?
Dames! He's the third wheel on the Cult Film Podcast, CF3 Cult Films Fans and Finds. There they talk about and rate cult classics, often with a star from the film, ultimately giving way to the patented cult filmometer. Dames does have an engineering job, so the ladies know. Other than that, he fronts several bands in the Omaha area and is a respected recording artist. Welcome, Dames.
Nice.
Yeah. You guys doing?
What up, man?
We're good, man.
I like to describe Dames as the best wheel, not the third wheel.
All right. That's rare. That's rare.
The better of the two Marvins who have joined us. I mean,
That, and I just got done putting out the last 4 packs of sushi from last week.
I'm rest assured I didn't go to Omaha, Nebraska for my sushi. So
Yeah, that would have made it only better.
We came to you.
I would say that's called landlocked, baby. Dames, we appreciate you being here and talking a little bit of Bryan Cranston with us.
Sure.
Hey, Dames, what kind of bands are you in?
The good kind. Actually, I did want to talk a little about that because CF3 is actually switching to a video podcast. So we'll have a YouTube TV show coming at probably somewhere about the beginning of the year. And to answer your question about music, this is my last day of work for the next 11 days because I'm about to lock myself in the studio for 7 days with my recording partner. And we're going to record whatever happens in that 7 days. And we're just going to call it The Week. And we're going to release it. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's cool as hell.
So you guys have been on hiatus for about, 5 months or so on the CF3 side?
Yeah, it just kind of happened where, COVID hit. And then we were able to get anybody that we wanted to be on the show. But then everybody got swamped with work. It's crazy because, we hear about all these people losing their jobs. So I'm a telecom engineer. I went from 5% of the country using web chat to 90% of the country using web chat. So we just absolutely got slammed. We had to, unfortunately, take a hiatus. And then we came up with the reinvention of what CF3 will be. And I think we're writing original music for it, for the bumpers and working on graphics and editing all the, that kind of stuff. So we're going to put out a quality product, I think.
That's badass.
Yeah, that'll be cool to see.
The new logo looks awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw you guys put out like a 30-minute video the other day explaining everything that's going on. So pretty excited for y'all.
Thank you.
Get back there and get all the, because you guys bring in some really impressive guests on your show.
Thank you.
All right, birthdays, November 5th, Warren.
So November 5th, we got Famke Janssen. She was in X-Men as Jean Grey, the original X-Men. She was in The Faculty. She was in Goldeneye and Taken 3. She was dumb enough to get taken a third time.
Yeah, she did.
How old is Famke Janssen?
She hasn't aged since 30.
She hasn't.
She really hasn't.
54.
69.
Great call.
I'm going to go 51.
I'm going low. Give me a 48.
I'll go 52.
53.
56. I think Rigby had 54.
Sweet.
All right.
Let's still hit it.
She was a Nip Tuck the first season. She was awesome.
Yes, she was. Next up, Sam Rockwell, who's in he's awesome. He's in everything
He's great.
7 Psychopaths, 3 Billboards, Jojo Rabbit, The First Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Charlie's Angels.
What was he in the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
He was a foot soldier.
He was the foot guy who basically Casey Jones got him and Danny to take Splinter back out.
Holy fuck, you just blew my fucking mind.
That was his second movie he was in.
Wow.
And he's got this super New York accent in it.
Oh, okay. I remember.
So how old is Sam Rockwell?
Give me 60.
What? I was way the fuck off.
55. 55.
48.
51.
I'm going 42.
52.
Damn, someone nailed it.
Sam Rockwell is 52.
Is that Rigby again?
No,
I said 48.
I said 51.
There you go.
All right, last up, we got Tilda Swinton, Snowpiercer, Doctor Strange, Burn After Reading, Moonrise Kingdom, and Uncut Gems. She was the voice of the auction manager.
She's 91.
How about 55, Warren?
What? I don't think you know who Tilda Swinton is.
He's defending her honor here.
You're saying she's younger?
Yeah, definitely younger. 85.
47?
I got no clue who you're talking about, so give me a 70.
What?
I got no clue.
Were there any serious guesses there?
I said 47.
Yeah, 91.
Yeah, dude, 85 was serious.
Tilda Swinton is 60.
I'm pretty sure Rigby and Kyle don't know who she is. I'm pretty sure.
What do you mean?
I definitely know who Tilda Swinton is.
Sam Rockwell was older than her? I'm pretty confident you did.
I said Sam
51.
Rockwell was 48.
You guys were up in the 80s. I went low just to be safe so I didn't overshoot.
I think it's because Snowpiercer, she just looks 105, and that's the only picture I have like recent in my head.
She's great.
Yeah. Wait a minute, I was going dog years, so mine might actually have been closer to the
Give me 420. So that's it for the birthdays. Happy birthday, November 5th.
Anybody else, when he says November 5th, think about Back to the Future? That's when Marty went back to the future.
Is it?
Yeah, that was the day he went back to November 5th.
Why did I feel like it was in October?
I thought it was in October too, but I could be wrong.
Maybe he went back. I don't know.
Doc even plugs in November 5th, 1955.
I think it's because I fall for that Facebook meme where they just replace that date all the time. And it's like, it's today. And I'm like, it might be. You guys have fucked me up at this point.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, though, Dames, that's a fantastic transition because we're going to talk about the actor choices around the wheel. And the first one on that list was Christopher Lloyd of Back to the Future fame. So,
what? Great Scott!
So I think you knew that. And you just connected those dots, and you're a good man for it. So that was option one. Option two was Eugene Levy, popular on social media in terms of the options. We had Alfre Woodard, Tina Fey, and Bryan Cranston. Bryan Cranston, we've had a run of really busy actors. So we had Gary Cole with 179, we had Trejo with 8 million, and now we've got Bryan Cranston with 157. Of that 157, 73 of those are TV series, whether it's recurring characters or just quick appearances. And he also did 17 TV movies. A lot of stuff you've probably never seen.
I don't think I've done anything 73 times.
I can confirm that Trejo has died more times in 1 year than Cranston has done total movies.
Wow. James bringing in the deep cuts.
Yeah, for real.
The disclaimer I gave on Gary Cole and Trejo is we're not going to hit everything they've ever done. We're just going to hit the highlights. So again, if we hit something that you love and we didn't mention it, just yell at us on Twitter or on Instagram and we'll tell you you're right. So as we always do when we get into our actor, James, take us through a little bit of trivia.
Dames, if you are a new listener here, we do 2 truths and a lie. 2 of these facts are going to be true about the life of Bryan Cranston, and one of them is actually going to be a fact about one of the many actors from the Fast and the Furious franchise. And you guys got to guess which one is related to the Fast and Furious franchise. Fact number 1, the author of the comic book series Ultimate Spider-Man was such a fan of his work that he instructed the show's artists to base the villain Vulture on him. Fact number 2, he once worked as a carny, aka he traveled and worked with a carnival. Fact number 3, he was once the primary suspect in a murder investigation.
Oh.
Holy shit.
Jesus.
This might be your hardest one you've ever done. That's good.
The lie is that he worked in a carnival because that was Cliff Curtis, The Rock's brother in Hobbs and Shaw. Or
Everybody knows that.
Maybe it's pronounced Clifford Curtis. I don't know.
I think 3 is the lie, and I think Jason Statham was once the primary suspect in a murder investigation.
3 more guesses here.
This is fucking difficult, man.
All right, well, what was the first one? Because I want to be different.
The first one was the author of the comic book series The Ultimate Spider-Man was such a fan of his work that he instructed the TV show's artists to base the villain Vulture on him.
I'm going to say that's the lie, because that sounds like some douche from Fast and the Furious. Which I had never seen until I listened to John Cohorn say he'd never seen it.
I'm going to go with number 1's a lie. I think that was Elsa Pataki. I think that's Hemsworth's wife. You know,
Man.
breaking the gender barriers.
I'm going to go number 3, and that's actually Cody Walker. That's Paul Walker's brother.
This stand-in.
No. Too soon? No, I think it's properly timed. Okay, so then I will start here. Fact number 2 is in fact true. He once worked as a carny. He was a carnival worker with his brother, and he actually worked a ton of odd jobs before he gets into acting. And Kyle's going to cover those a little later.
His brother was Joe Dirt.
That's right, exactly.
Dirty Joe Dirt.
Well, I knew that because he smells like cabbage. And
Very small hands. Everyone knows that. Fact number 3 is also true. He was once the primary suspect in a murder investigation.
Wow.
Before him and his brother left home to, work odd jobs and eventually get into acting, they both worked as waiters in Florida, and right after they left, the main chef at the restaurant they worked at was murdered. When the police came back and was like, is anyone here ever say anything negative about him? All the people there was like, Yeah, Cranston and his brother always joked about killing him all the time. And they just recently left. The police actually tracked them down and realized that it wasn't them and that the chef was actually just a big piece of shit and who was tied up in other illegal activities. But he jokes about it in a couple interviews where he mentions, like, don't really say jokes about, I would totally kill this guy this way, because if he actually does get killed, you are suspect number one, and for good reason.
The moral of the story: when they ask you for the recipes, give that shit up.
Fact number one is, in fact, not true. The character of the Vulture was actually based off of Jason Statham.
Was that Rigby?
Nice.
Or was it?
I said Statham was the suspect.
No, it was Dames.
Oh, Dames. Coming in hot.
I didn't give names because I don't know who's in those movies.
But it was a douche, so you were very
except for the
accurate
guy.
with the douche. So there you go.
Thanks, James. Case, tell us a little bit about his snapshot and box office history.
This is kind of a basic one. As we brought up and alluded to already, most of his notable work and the volume of his work comes to TV projects. And so obviously we're not going to have any box office information for that. That being said, though, when you compare him to other featured Munson performers, his stats kind of look like his career, pretty effective, but understated. If you average out the ranking in IMDb popularity or Star Meter, box office performance, critical ranking, and fan ranking, he actually ranks 5th out of our 22 performers.
Damn.
Drastically higher than I thought. I think he's a great performer and to have on your cast. I just don't know that he's a superstar that's a big movie draw. That's all I got, man.
Appreciate it. So before we get into his first feature film, which hit 1991, going to trace a little bit of his start in the entertainment industry. But even before he got to entertainment, he did a lot of stuff, as James alluded to earlier in the trivia segment. So first, if you look at his IMDb, technically his first role was in an episode of One Life to Live in 1968. Looks like it was just a one-off deal. And he didn't really do any other work until the 80s. But in between, initially his parents were not entirely supportive of him going into acting, but he got his start at the Granada Theater in San Fernando Valley. Like a few of the other Munson actors we've covered, comes from a theater background and has done a lot of good work on the theater side. Over the years, before he got into acting, he became an ordained minister, which has a really interesting story. You can watch an interview with him talking about it online. Basically, they just printed off a paper and he signed his name, sent it into the attorney general, whatever the hell, whoever ratifies that stuff. So it was pretty not legit, but he's an ordained minister and he can officiate your wedding. He was a waiter, he was a security guard, he was a camera operator, a truck loader. So he did a lot of stuff, just grinding to get through. In the 80s is when he started to get more work on the Hollywood side. So he did 2 TV movies in 1980. He was on an episode of Crisis Counselor in 82, an episode of Chips in 82, which I know was a big show in that time. In 83, he was one of the original cast members for the show Loving as Douglas Donovan. And I know that's something that people tend to associate with his early career. He did a bunch of other smaller projects, but he was in a movie called Amazon Women on the Moon in 1987. I don't think any of us have seen it, but he played a paramedic in that one.
Is that the movie Laura was paramedic number 2?
We'll have to check in with Laura. She may be able to give us more information on that one. He's busy in the 80s, but nothing substantial. 91 hits, and that's his first feature film, or at least what we're going to call his first feature film, and that's Dead Space, and Warren's got it.
God bless this movie being 72 minutes long. That's the only way it's palatable.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's I love Alien and Aliens and like those sci-fi movies. And they were just like, give me everything that you can about that movie. And we're going to try and do a remake of the 1982 Roger Corman produced movie. And you could probably get better set design in like a middle school play. And it's like, there are times when doors don't open like right, and the people just like pause right in front of it and they're like, go, like open,
Go.
And like doors, they close and the walls rattle and shit like that, and sounds and nothing's aligned. But the whole thing of the movie is these people are in a space shuttle outside of Saturn, and there's this like virus that's wiped out a bunch of stuff, and they're trying to find a remedy for it. They kind of throw this thing together, which turns into a creature that grows exponentially And there's no, like, you have no fucking clue what time has passed. Like, it could be an hour or it could be a month. You just don't know. Nobody has to shave. Nobody goes to the bathroom. And then, it's, this alien thing that grows. It has, wings, but it doesn't use it. And it's just hilarious. And Cranston, you can tell immediately this is the only guy who has any clue what he's doing.
100%. Uh-huh.
He delivers stuff correct. He knows what cadence is. He knows not to look at the camera. He knows
that.
There are people. Their eyes will pan and they'll catch the camera and they'll their head will keep moving and then their eyes will trail afterwards.
Is anybody else famous in it besides him or not?
Well, the only
Kingpin.
other person that you might know is Mark Singer, and he did some stuff in Beastmaster series.
Jesus,
he's the main character technically.
Is he the one that has the robot friend?
Yeah, Tin Pan.
Tin Pan.
Tin Pan. That's right.
72 minutes, though. That's crazy.
It flies by, and I watched it before I was eating breakfast, and before I knew it, I watched the whole thing. It was great.
Does it though?
It's not a good movie, and it's not supposed to be, but you can tell that Cranston definitely knows what's going on.
I became fascinated with the quote unquote robot.
Yeah.
It looked like they cast that robot out of a UCB skit. It was clearly a human being with a helmet.
100%.
Hey, let's go with it. Yes, and right? Yes, and.
Good call.
That's Dead Space. Our next movie is not going to happen until 2010, so we've got an 18-year window that we're going to hit of his career, and he's pretty busy during that time. He in '93 he's makes his first appearance in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on the TV show. He played a couple different characters, 2 different monsters on that show. We mentioned it because we're going to mention it later because he makes a return to that whole world. A little bit more recent.
Question in regards to Power Rangers. I heard that the character Billy, the Blue Ranger, was a staple of my childhood, was actually named after Bryan Cranston. But then upon reading your show notes, I heard that might not actually be true. Can you tell me that story?
So what I learned in my research is that the only controversy I could find about Cranston of everything was, I guess he criticized at one point Billy's sexuality, being a gay man, and had to apologize for it. That's the only thing I know about it.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a way different tone than I thought this was going. I thought you were going to say that it was confirmed that it wasn't named after him because Billy's last name is actually Cranston, and he has said many times that the show writers loved him for the voiceover work that he did, that they named that character after him. I had no idea it had anything to do with potential homophobia.
It probably has to do with both. I didn't even know that was Billy's last name.
Yeah.
Cool. It's an interesting little connection. All right.
I think the Pink Ranger was the first person who let me know I was straight when I saw it. I was like, oh my God. I don't know what's going on, but I like that.
Amy Jo Johnson.
Oh man, she was gorgeous. All right. 94 to 97, he had a recurring character as Tim Whatley on Seinfeld.
And I would argue he's the best recurring character in the show. He's in a total of 4 or 5 episodes. Each episode he's in has some sort of quote that's still known in society today. Anti-dentite, re-gifter, that sort of thing.
You're a rabbit anti-dentite.
I love that episode where Jerry's convinced that Cranston is a converted Jew just so he can make Jew jokes. And
Just for the jokes.
And it's driving him insane.
It's awesome. I would argue that this, he had a gap between this and Malcolm in the Middle, but I would argue that this was sort of his, because Seinfeld used to get 30, 40 million viewers a night. I would argue that was probably what introduced him to the spotlight.
This is definitely his biggest project at this point in his career. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. He was on it for a span of 3 or 4 years, just like one episode each season or something like that. That was big in his career for sure.
Yep. 96, he's in That Thing You Do. Probably I know you said Seinfeld was the biggest part of his career at that point. That Thing You Do is probably the biggest movie he was in early on in his career. He's in it for literally one scene. He plays Virgil Gus Grissom, but there's a connection there because there's a NASA connection to the next show we're going to mention. That's From the Earth to the Moon, which we talked about in the Gary Cole episode. In this one, he plays Buzz Aldrin in 2 different episodes, and his deliberate, calm demeanor fit the role pretty well for that whole series on HBO. 98, he's in Saving Private Ryan, a big movie. And that when he plays the War Department colonel.
He's got one arm.
Got one arm, yep.
There you go.
So you could have drummed for Def Leppard.
Yes, he could have. Still damn good, too.
Or been in The Fugitive.
Or play linebacker for the Seahawks.
Or pitch a perfect game for the Yankees.
There you go. Possibilities are endless.
Or be a kid I went to elementary school named Joey Baker.
Well, we're gonna have to edit
Joey!
Joey's probably not gonna be happy about this.
Joey's a secret fan, bro.
What the fuck?
I've been waiting for my shout
He
out.
just slams on his car brakes right now. Like, God damn it, Kyle.
Luckily, he's got 2 feet. He can handle it.
Oh my God. What did Joey do to you?
And then 99 to 2001, he has a recurring character in The King of Queens as Tim.
He plays Kevin James' neighbor in it. He's actually really funny. That's a show I watch every once in a while, and he's in a few of them.
What year are we on? 99.
99. Yes, 99.
Can we go back to 98 for a second?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of the X-Files, and I know he did an episode of the X-Files called Drive. The interesting thing about that X-Files episode is it was written by Vince Gilligan, and I'm wondering
Interesting.
if that was the first time they met.
I can confirm it is 100%. That's one of the facts that I have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're on a run of good shows in the late 90s. So we talked about the X-Files, King of Queens. We got Third Rock from the Sun, 1999. This is our third Munson connection, the Third Rock from the Sun. We haven't hit since episode 2.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we're big Third Rock from the Sun fans.
Oh,
We
yeah.
came out of the gate with 2 Third Rock from the Sun references and have gone cold for 19 episodes. So number 3
About time.
in the bag.
We're coming for you, French Stewart.
Yeah, I was going to say French Stewart's next, baby.
I was hoping Wayne Knight was going to be next.
Yeah.
I might be fat, but I'm slow. I love Wayne Knight.
99, he's in a movie called Last Chance. Nothing substantial here other than the fact that he's directed it, he's a writer, and he acts in it. So this is when he starts to do some other things other than just acting.
I actually read a fact about this. He said in an interview that of all the stuff he's done, this is the one project he wish more people would know about it because he feels like the story was told really well and he was a huge part of it.
Yeah, I watched it. It's like kind of like a grungy diner movie. The story is pretty unremarkable, but it's the first time he really got into the director chair at that point in his career. So you can catch it on Tubi if you feel so inclined. But then 2000 hits and we have Malcolm in the Middle and his character Hale. Just game changing for his career.
This show fucking rocks.
Yeah.
Rewatching it for this podcast, I forgot how good it was.
I remember it being 5th and 6th grade. That was a show that I definitely tuned into every week it was on for sure. And he was great in it. Perfect casting on their part.
It still held up. I remember freshman year in college, my buddy Davey and I,
Davey Hyatt.
between 4 and 6 p.m., it was Malcolm Simpsons, and then we go eat dinner.
That's a hell of a schedule.
It's still fucking hilarious. And my parents have a cat named Dewey.
That's a great name.
My dad named him off the youngest Malcolm brother because we don't know their last name.
How many seasons did that go?
It's 6.
2000 to 2006.
You mentioned that in The Simpsons. I actually had this parallel. It could have gone like 30 seasons if it would have done what The Simpsons did. Like early on, The Simpsons was like all about Bart, right?
Yeah.
And then when they realized what they had in Homer as a character, they shifted the show to be about Homer, and that's where all the success really came from. Hal's character, if they would have made a switch there, and they kind of did a little bit, in my opinion, they could have gone on, maybe not 30 years, but his character was just that great.
There was that one episode, and it sticks out to me, where it's like almost solely him when he drops Malcolm off at the bowling alley. Yeah. He is bowling a perfect game, and he develops this like routine that he does where he realizes his fly's down. He takes a sip out of the drink. He steps first with this shoe. He coughs to one side, says "bless you" to another side. Each time he bowls a strike, something else happens. He's like, "Oh, I gotta, add to it. I gotta add to it." And he keeps doing it. It's perfect. And that, I mean, really, this show and him acting in it the way he was at the end. And Dames, you're completely right. Like, this is something that I feel is missing from his later work. He's very serious because of everything that happened from Breaking Bad and on. So people want that. And like, this is my favorite Cranston because
that's
he just acts like he doesn't like. he acts the way I would expect him to act as a father.
I 100% agree. And if we ever have a chance, I mean, I think we do at the end of here get to rate him as an actor or his career, whatever. Yeah. You will find out exactly how I feel about what you just said.
Perfect. One thing I loved about his character is it was something I haven't seen before, where it was like a completely stressed out but really nice dad who was clearly like the dumbest of the family, not in a Homer sense where it was comedic, but where it was more like he's dumb, but I'm rooting for him because he's really trying his best. But like his wife is carrying his ass, and his kids, they also know that he's really not that good at anything, but he's such a nice person. They just kind of deal with it. It was very unique.
He's really good at banging his wife.
Right. He's just madly in love with his wife, who just owns him completely.
What a show.
Classic Cranston. 2001, he's in a TV movie called 'Twas the Night. Plays a character named Nick Wrigley. It is what I would refer to as a broke-ass version of the Santa Claus, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies. His character, he looks like a kidnapper from Three Ninjas in there, if you know what I'm talking about. Just like lots of like tie-dye, like disheveled hair.
Like, I love those guys from Three Ninjas, yeah.
He just looks like a slime ball, and he's pretty good in the movie. He plays a pretty convincing slime ball character. It's almost the exact same concept as the Santa Claus. 2004, he's in Seeing Other People, plays a character named Peter. This is where I would note he starts to get experimental in his career of taking on characters with really weird accents. Since in this one, he plays kind of a creepy character who's constantly in Speedos and wears like creepy sunglasses inside all the time. It's not a good movie, but you start to see some of that experimenting with accents that he likes to do. Also, Korn's lead singer plays a role in the movie, which I think is hilarious.
Wow.
Because he is not an actor, but he certainly tries.
I think the Speedo thing he probably got the confidence from the very first scene from Malcolm in the Middle when he's standing butt naked and Jane Krakowski is shaving him from the toe.
When he did his SNL monologue, he showed photos of his career, and every photo was him in his underwear and all the shows he's done, Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle. So he has some fun with that kind of stuff, which I enjoy.
So the only difference between him and Jason Segel is a piece of fabric?
I guess, doing his best Borat impression throughout his career. 2006, he's in Little Miss Sunshine as Stan Grossman. And then in 2008, career just skyrockets, goes out of this world as his character is Walter in Breaking Bad, which ran 2008 to 2013. And he produced in 2011.
Before we get into talking about this iconic show, I could go back to the fact we alluded to earlier. Is an interesting fact about the character of Walter White. John Cusack and Matthew Broderick were the first two actors that were offered that part, and they both turned it down.
Wow.
And AMC was initially cautious about casting Cranston because they only knew of him from his comedy background with Malcolm in the Middle. So they didn't think he would be a good fit because they hadn't seen him in anything dramatic to this level, and they just thought he was funny. But Vince Gilligan showed them those episodes of The X-Files, names you actually mentioned, where Cranston plays a conflicted racist whose head is about to explode. Yeah. And that actually changed their mind. Gilligan had actually written that episode while they were working together.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Got him the role.
That's a cool connection. He won, 4 Primetime Emmys for his role in that show?
I thought it was interesting listening to some interviews of him, and he said, without The Sopranos, Breaking Bad probably wouldn't have existed.
Absolutely.
The way that they wrote Tony Soprano's character opened the door for a character like Walter.
Definitely.
The protagonist being an anti-hero was first, and masterfully done by The Sopranos. But what I think the difference is with The Sopranos, Tony has some redeeming qualities, and the stage is set where initially he's a bad guy, but you're rooting for him. With Walter White, he starts as what you perceive as a good guy, and by the end of the show, there's no redeeming quality.
No.
He's pure evil. He's just an evil person, but he is the main character, so you're already bought in on his side. And I think that is the difference. I love The Sopranos, but Walter White's iconic, and I could talk about Breaking Bad forever.
Performance in the pilot from Cranston, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the show, that performance hooked me right away. And usually when I'm hooked in a pilot, I stay with it. But for some reason with this, I haven't. But he crushes it for sure.
Yeah, what makes him so good in the role?
What makes him so good in the role is he goes back and forth. It's like a classic Jekyll and Hyde character.
Yeah.
And he goes back and forth because he's got cancer. He's got a life that is depressing before he got cancer. And so you want him to win. And then he flips this switch where he feels like power and alpha male bravado. And he has this massive ego. And all of a sudden he goes from like, wow, I hope this guy, finally figures it out, to being like, actually, I forgot I'm rooting for him because he's pure evil. He flips it so quickly where he's a decrepit old man battling cancer and then a drug kingpin who's truly terrifying to be around. And it's mid-sentence where you can see that change take place.
And that'll wrap up the 2000s for Cranston. 2010 lands, and we experience his lowest critic score. That's a movie called The Love Ranch. I got this one. It's going to be quick. About as quick as Cranston's character is in the movie, because he's on screen for about a minute total. So pretty minor. Just so you guys know, how Pesci went into retirement from acting and came out for The Irishman at one point?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was like, holy shit, he came out of retirement. This is the movie that put him into retirement. You can kind of frame this up. 2010 was the last time he acted before The Irishman. It is the lowest critic score. It's got like a 13 on Rotten Tomatoes, 28 for audiences. So universally not very loved. I'm not going to spend much time on the movie plot. The two main stars are Pesci and Dame Helen Mirren. The only reason I'll mention who the director is, it's Taylor Hackford. That's Helen Mirren's husband. So I think that's the reason Helen Mirren is in this dumpster fire. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing? Why did you choose this? But he's done like stuff like Ray, The Devil's Advocate, Dolores Claiborne, and Blood In, Blood Out, which we talked about on the Trejo episode.
Helen Mirren's also been in Fast and Furious. She plays Hobbs' mother.
Yes, she has.
Yes.
Very critically acclaimed.
The whole movie is based on a true story about the first legal brothel in Nevada. Mirren and Pesci run the brothel, and it's about the drama that happens there. Pesci's banging the talent. Helen Mirren falls for a boxer that comes onto their ranch to train, and that creates a bunch of tension in their marriage. There are absolutely terrible boxing. Probably the worst boxing scenes I've ever seen in a movie. It looks like Rock'em Sock'em Robots in there, where the guys literally have their gloves down, and homie's he's telling them jab. Here comes the jab, and he doesn't put his gloves up and block. It's pretty bad. The movie doesn't work because it expects you to sympathize with a bunch of people who run a brothel, and it's hard to do that. The acting's terrible in a lot of ways, and the characters are just disposable. Cranston's character, he plays James Pettis, who is a state senator and former federal prosecutor. He and Pesci have this weird interaction at the casino. I guess Cranston's character is like trying to gain influence and wants to get in on his operation because he's slightly corrupt. And then his character, they shows him like laughing in the middle of the boxing fight, and then you never see him again. It is utterly pointless. I don't know why they even wrote the character in. I guess the good thing to say about this is it is his lowest critic score, but it's not because of him, really anything he did. So that's, I guess, a good thing, right? His lowest critic score is a movie he's irrelevant in at the end of the day. All right, so that's Love Ranch. 2010 to 2012. Very, very busy couple of years for Cranston. So he's in The Lincoln Lawyer as Detective Langford. Small role, but he's in that movie, which pretty successful, pretty well known. He's in Detachment as Mr. Dearden. Again, a really small role. He plays Marcia Gay Harden's husband in that one. And then 2011, he's in Drive, plays a character named Shannon, which you could make the case that he's the third or fourth most important character of that story after Gosling and Mulligan's characters. What would you call him? He's kind of like a manager. I don't know. He's helping him get jobs.
He's basically his pimp, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a stunt manager, but he also hooks him up with robbery jobs and stuff like that. He's kind of like his mentor in a way.
Yeah.
That's a movie I need to watch again. I feel like I haven't seen it since
Drive
the
is
year
fantastic.
it came out.
Drive is awesome.
Gosling's character is only 891.
Interesting.
So I guess you can make a case that Cranston's character has the most lines of anyone in that movie.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, Gosling's character is very nonverbal. It's a lot of mannerisms and deep stares at people.
God, those eyes.
I mean, it would mesmerize you.
That was like the first movie I remember Oscar Isaac being like a big part of too.
2011, he's in Leave as Elliot. He wrote this one. Again, a really terrible British accent. He's in one scene of the movie, but again, just dabbling with accents, trying some different things.
I appreciate the fact that he was the writer. He knows he doesn't do a great British accent, yet he wrote himself a scene. That's phenomenal.
He's in one scene at a party, man. Larry Crowne, He played a character named Dean Tainut. We've mentioned Larry Crown on quite a few Munsons episodes at this point.
Plays Julia Roberts' husband, and he is a complete turd. He's jobless. He's basically leeching off of her as a writer. And instead of going out and finding a job or writing new stuff, he spends all day looking at porn. She's in the midst of a midlife crisis, and he's really entertaining in this movie in that role as a sleazeball who spends all day looking at porn.
I think it's hilarious that because you reviewed that movie for the first actor we covered, that you have to review every actor's performance in the movie going forward.
And apparently there's like 30 actors in that movie.
I know.
Yes.
That's number 3 for us on Larry Crown. It was Rami, and who was the second one?
Gugu.
That's right.
And he was in that movie with Tom Hanks, so it's another callback to earlier in the episode.
A lot of crossover. 2011, he was in Contagion, which this was the first time I'd seen it for this pod, and I agree with you, Rigby. I think it's much better than the other pandemic movie we watched a couple episodes back. His character is really small in it, but the part that stands out to me is that, like, in the first minute, John Hawkes' character tells Lawrence Fishburne to give up on the Detroit Lions, and I felt that. It was right here. It was right here.
That one hit a little too close to home, right?
It felt like things I should do, but I won't because I'm a glutton for pain.
One of those rare pop culture references that ages well.
Yep, exactly. that is timeless.
When you say his character is small, he wasn't playing like a little person.
No,
You just mean he wasn't in it.
minor character. He wasn't in
I was like, that would be actually a pretty diverse thing for him.
Not like when he was Gus Grissom.
The range,
that thing you
bro.
do.
The range, exactly. And then Dimitri Martin was in that movie too, so another crossover with stand-up comedian trying acting that I don't think worked out really well. He's in Red Tails as Colonel William Mortimus, another accent. He plays like a racist colonel in this movie, and he tries his best at a southern accent. Not bad. I give him a little bit better than some of the other accents I've seen him. And he does the racist well, I guess you would say. John Carter in 2012 played a character named Powell.
This is by far the largest budget on his film roster. It's a $250 million budget, which is tied for the most of any movie we've looked at.
Damn. What a bomberooski.
We all worked together when that movie came out, where I just remember reading how it was such a disaster.
2012, he was in Archer. He played a character named Commander Drake. It's just a 2-episode combo, but the whole plot for those 2 episodes, it's like Armageddon, where Archer is Bruce Willis, and that's the little note I made watching those 2 episodes.
Hey, Kyle, as far as I'm concerned, we can't reference Armageddon too much.
That's
That
true.
is great.
Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. He plays a character named Vitaly, who is a Russian Siberian tiger, and he puts on a Russian accent in this one. So again, playing with accents. The tiger actually kind of looks like him too, which is weird. To kind of wrap it up before we get to highest critic score, you've got Rock of Ages 2012 as Mike Whitmore, and it's a remake, right, of Total Recall. Cohagen.
Yeah,
Cohagen.
I watched
This one
the
one
first half
sucked.
of it, and it's just
The other one sucked too.
the issue with this is just like, I'm Colin Farrell, and I look at him, and all I see him from is Horrible Bosses.
Exactly.
All he's got in the movie is Kate Beckinsale and Jessica Biel fighting him, and then fighting over him, and all this stuff. It's just like, give me a fucking break. Jessica Biel may straight up be like one of the worst actresses in Hollywood. She's good looking, but
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Why would you remake this movie though? The only thing good about the original was like the quotes. And they didn't even have that. They didn't, like, there's no Cohagen, give the people the air.
Give these people air.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Yeah, and with his eyes and everything, like, bugging out of his head when the oxygen's going away. Yeah, you just, I mean, you obviously can't do that unless you have Colin Farrell, who has an Irish accent. You have him try and do a different kind of accent. But you're just not going to get that.
Maybe we should just open up.
The Cohagen in the original is like creepy, and he's like a really good bad guy. I didn't think Cranston was all that really in this movie, if I'm being honest.
All right, the 5th movie he did of 2012 is his highest critic score. So busy year of production in 2011 for him, and that's Argo, Best Picture winner. And James has it.
Argo is based on the true story of when militants actually overtook the U.S. Embassy in Iran in 1979, and it hostage situation that kind of played out for the entirety of the end of Jimmy Carter's presidency. Argo is based off the recently declassified true story of how, amid the chaos, 6 Americans actually slipped away from the militants who took those hostages and were hiding with the Canadian ambassador. Acting under the cover of a Hollywood producer scouting a location for a science fiction film, a CIA agent played by Ben Affleck was head of an operation to rescue those 6 Americans. I'm not going to talk much about this movie because I love it. No need to go through the plot. I would rather just kind of talk about it with you guys. A quick summary. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. It ended up winning 3: Best Film Editing, Best Writing, Best Picture. Bryan Cranston plays a fictional CIA agent named Jack O'Donnell, who is the head of the operation in the U.S. base. He's Affleck's higher up. He's who Affleck reports to, and he's the one who's kind of running it stateside while Affleck is actually in Iran. I loved rewatching it. I can watch it all the time. I think the opening scene is some of the best anxiety-driven action that I have seen, especially from Affleck, who seems like as a director, he really enjoys opening his movies with something exciting and anxiety-driven.
Where is this in the order of Affleck's directing?
This came out in 2012.
Third, yeah, because he did Gone Baby Gone was his first one.
That was his first, okay.
And then The Town was 2010. So this would have been third, yeah.
This was third.
Those are 3 awesome movies. So I can shit on Affleck as much as possible for maybe not being a great actor.
He was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
Great
Callback.
Yeah, bringing that one back.
This movie's fantastic. I think the opening scene where the militants are, protesting outside of the U.S. Embassy, and it's like such a good representation of office bullshit of what to do, and everyone's afraid to kind of take the lead. And they're like, well, we should wait for the police to get here. It's like, there's 2,000 people with pitchforks outside. Like, what the fuck are the police going to do? Like, we're fucked. We have to get out of here. It's like, well, we should wait till we hear from the U.S. on what to do. And finally, one guy's like, they're about to firebomb this place. We're sneaking out the back. And the first 10 minutes of the movie sets the stage for how serious this situation is.
I would agree with what you said about how in all the frenziness, like Cranston's kind of like running the operations from the office standpoint, and he's awesome. I only saw it once from what I remember, but doesn't he have like a monologue in the office where when things like go to shit that like really sort of, he kind of like steals the scene?
The CIA puts together all of the ideas that they have, and then they have to essentially pitch this to the president's right-hand man, who then pitched to Jimmy Carter for a stamp of approval, and all the ideas are shit. And finally, the White House is like, all your ideas are bad, and this is the best you've come up with. And Cranston's like, yes, sir, this is the best bad idea we have. This, like, by far, this is the best one, and we know it's bad.
He's a supervisor, right? I mean, he's like the manager of the CIA, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's intense from what I remember, for sure.
Actually, I think the reason why I disliked this originally was because I thought it was just a movie that Affleck wrote. I didn't know that there was an actual like story, like a real story behind it.
It is.
And so I was like, this is so fucking lazy. That's exactly what it was I walked in and I was like, who believes this shit? Like, how dumb is everybody in this world?
It's absolutely a true story. It's not 100% true. Like I said, Chris' character is fictional character, but Tony Mendez, who Affleck plays, is the guy who wrote he was a CIA agent. He got the highest honor from the president, and it got declassified in like the 90s.
Okay, thanks, James. 2014, Cranston went back to the stage, and he got a Tony Award for Best Actor for his role as LBJ in All the Way, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, in the film adaptation of it. But pretty cool. That's the highest award possible when you're doing stage productions. Also 2014, he's in Godzilla as Joe Brody, a little cross with our boy Ken Watanabe. 2015, he played Dalton Trumbo in Trumbo, which earned him an Oscar, Golden Globe, and SAG nom for Best Actor. This is his only Oscar nomination for this role.
Yep. So
it's based on a real person, and he was a Hollywood screenwriter, one of the best in the game, but he was a communist. During the McCarthy era, they blacklisted all of these screenwriters, and so he leads a group who are writing scripts for production companies secretly under fake names, and he would routinely write while he was in the bathtub while smoking his like long cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the gist of the character in the movie. He's pretty good in it. I'd have to look at all the other nominees that year for the Oscar, but I'd say it's pretty worthy considering the role that he put in.
Speaking of communism and writers, the movie The Majestic with Jim Carrey, he is very much a screenwriter in that same scenario, being accused of being a communist. His character's name is Luke Trimble. Kind of plucked that name a little bit from Trumbo, I think.
Because of research on this podcast, I figured out that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's grandfather was actually a communist who was blackballed in Hollywood.
That's right.
Yeah, I forgot that was a thing.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that. A little throwback to episode 1. And then in 2015 to 2017, he played a character named Vince on Sneaky Pete, which he co-created and produced and wrote. And I know from his interviews, and James, you could probably back this one up, that his family used to call him Sneaky Pete because he was kind of a shiesty character when growing up. This show was definitely something that's close to his heart. And I think Giovanni Ribisi played the main character in the show.
That's a good show, and he's a good heavy in it too.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
He's a good bad guy for sure in it.
And that takes us to our Munson's Choice. So if you're a first-time listener, the way this works, we hit the usual 5 categories, but our guests get a chance to pick performance from that particular performer. And in this case, Dames went with the screen adaptation of All the Way. So Dames, tell us a little bit about it.
We got Lyndon Baines Johnson becomes president of the United States in the chaotic aftermath of JFK's assassination.
Spoiler.
He died in office to quickly pass the Civil Rights Act. But as we watched the movie, we realized, as well as he did get that Civil Rights Act passed, it probably wasn't his first priority to do so.
No.
I just think this is one of the most brilliant performances I've ever seen by a human being. And I say that, having watched my fair share of performances over the years. I don't even think this is his best performance by any stretch. I can't imagine what he would have been like playing Howard Beale in Patty Chayefsky's Network, which he did. The fact that that's not a release that we can watch right now is a crime in itself. So LBJ, it's just the story of him in civil rights times. So
he's so good in it, man.
Yeah,
he's unrecognizable, dude.
He's so good in this movie from start to finish. I mean, commanding presence. I mean, it wasn't definitely something that he's going to be exhausted by the end of the day of shooting because he is going all full bore in almost every scene.
I mean, how do you not take years to prep for that? I mean, he's with other heavyweights like Frank Langella.
Oh, yeah.
And Bradley Whitford. I mean, these guys are like creme de la creme, and then he's just on another planet.
The scenes with Martin Luther King, played by Anthony Mackie, were fantastic. Those two together were great.
And this is only a TV movie, too. That's the wildest part. This wasn't even wide release.
Yep.
The picture that I'm looking at, it looks like Cranston is doing his best impression of Richard Jenkins doing an impression of LBJ. It's incredible. You're right. If I were to look at it really quick, I'd say that's Richard Jenkins. It's impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate you picking this one, Dames, because this was I probably wouldn't have watched it otherwise, and this was cool to watch.
How long did I think about it after you asked me?
A second.
You're like, you might want to pick another one. I'm like, this is it. That's it.
What I found interesting about this was it was the first time I learned Lyndon B. Johnson, despite being the president who helped pass the Civil Rights Act, was actually like fucking racist in his personal life.
Oh, yeah.
Wrapping my head around that and how I just completely missed that listening, growing up and hearing about our history is still interesting to kind of explore. Someone who can do so much positive, but then personally not believe in what he's doing it's a lot to unwrap.
Well, yeah, think about it. What are the history books moving forward going to say?
It gives you good historical context around Dixiecrats and how the political landscape changed after LBJ. All right, next, James. 2016, again, another busy year for him. So we've got The Infiltrator. In 2016 is Robert Mazur, and then his largest critic gap. So we got a couple categories just in that year. And this one is Wakefield, and Rigby's got this one.
So Wakefield is a movie from 2016, as Kyle mentioned. It's based off a short story. Bryan Cranston plays the titular character, Howard Wakefield. Wakefield is a New York attorney. He's got a good job, a good family, and he makes a lot of money. But you realize when the movie opens, he's depressed and seemingly going through his life without a purpose. His wife, played by Jennifer Gardner, they have kind of a strange relationship where they flirt with other people to become more sexually attracted to each other. So I call that the James Marsden relationship. The plot of the movie is Wakefield on his way home from work one night, and he runs into the garage to chase a raccoon, and he chases the raccoon up to the house's attic. And when he gets to the attic, he sees that he has a perfect view of his family from the attic, and he realizes that he can watch them and see their interactions, and he doesn't have to be a part of their life, basically, and he can also sort of abandon all of his responsibilities. Just be alone, basically. Live a stress-free life. Don't have to go to work. Don't have to deal with the bullshit that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, both inside and outside the home. So he just stays in the attic, and he observes everything from a distance. Cranston's obviously the backbone of the movie. He narrates the movie from start to finish, and everything is seen through his eyes and his voice. The movie is a pretty emotional one because, you know, he assumes that his wife and his family will be, because he's kind of detached from them, he assumes that they'll just live their life without him. And I think he's kind of surprised to realize that that's not the case. And he misses, you know, months go on when he's in this attic. He doesn't shave. He doesn't change his clothes. He becomes disheveled. And I think he realizes that he misses his family more than he thought he would. And there's a scene where he leaves the attic because he is homeless, so no one would even recognize, or he looks homeless, so no one would even recognize him because he's wearing drabby clothes. He's got a really long beard, really long hair, and he runs into his wife on the sidewalk, and she doesn't recognize him anymore. She just passes him off as like a homeless guy. It's a funny movie. It's dark. It's emotional, and I think it's the kind of role that Cranston was born to play because he's, like I said, he narrates it, so you hear it from both. You watch him act, but you also hear his thoughts. I thought that lent a really powerful aspect to the movie. The final scene is what makes the movie, without giving it away.
I love the final scene.
Me
really
too.
Cool.
Hit me like a ton of bricks, man. I won't give it away just because I want people. The movie's on Netflix, and I want people to go see it because I don't think a lot of people have seen this movie.
No.
And I was fascinated with it. It's extremely original, yet I think it's something that we all probably have thought about. Like, what would our lives look like from afar, basically? It's also a cautionary tale for you married Munsons out there.
So it's like being John Malkovich and Click.
Exactly. If I were a critic rating it on the Rotten Tomatoes score, I would probably go like a 90.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, go check it out. It's on Netflix. I wish it had gotten a larger audience because I think it certainly deserved it.
All right, here's where I'm going to push you guys a little bit in my later direction. This is one of his best roles to me because it requires him working on his stage adaptation persona. Basically, you have to have that training because this movie is driven entirely by him talking to himself, basically.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You guys don't have any idea how hard that is. I mean, I've tried to act before. I'm terrible at it. But this guy makes it a case for him being one of the greatest actors on the known planet because he can pull off stuff like this and in the way that he does. There's a lot of actors that can do this, but they can't do it on the same level. And I think the reason it was so engaging all the way to the end was because of his performance in this role.
Yeah, for sure.
The way he brings you into his mind and how they edit the movie to give you like 3 or 4 different scenarios of what he might experience in the house or if he encountered his wife. Like there was a really cool glimpse into what's going on in his head.
There's not a single false moment in this movie for him.
Yeah, I agree.
Emotionally, it's a roller coaster for him of highs and lows of what he's seeing and his expectations and what happens. It's fascinating.
It's all something that I think we deal with as we get older too. Like there's a sense of like regret and, you know, parts of your life that you wish you could kind of do over. And that's sort of what he goes through. I had never heard of it before and I was very happy to watch it. That's for sure.
I think I lean more towards the critic score. I'd go low 70s on it. I think the only reason it gets to that, though, is because of Cranston's performance. He's the entirety of the movie, in my eyes.
For sure.
He makes the drama. He sells the anxiety and the tense story and the darkness of it. Like, by the time you realize where the story's going, it's, like, dark. It's not, oh, all right, there's a couple that's kind of into weird shit sexually. This is a man who's losing his mind, and he doesn't tell the audience that originally. You kind of figure it out.
Yep.
Because there's points in there where you're like, okay, enough's enough. Haven't you seen enough? But what the fuck more do you need to see before you go running back in there?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like she's called the police, man. Like she's sobbing her eyes out. Like I think now's probably the time you head back on in, and she clearly likes you. That's when I realized, like, oh, this is about a man who's had essentially a nervous breakdown.
I'm gonna go 95 on it because I don't know that I'd watch it again by myself, but this is definitely one that I would enjoy showing to someone for the
introduce
first time.
somebody. One of the things that I appreciated about it from a directing standpoint is you think of like how can someone realistically live in this dump for, especially during the winter when your footprints, and he at one point verbalizes like, how am I going to pull this off that she's going to see my footprints outside? So I appreciated the self-realization of the realistic nature of this.
Yep.
The first person on Instagram who, when we put up the wheel options, the first person who mentioned Bryan Cranston was like, because I want to rewatch Wakefield. So
Sweet.
got some fans out there for it. And don't undersell Jennifer Garner's performance. Almost entirely nonverbal, but still has to like convey an emotional sadness that convinces him like, holy shit, this relationship was real.
Yeah.
So 2016, huge year for him. We had All the Way, Infiltrator, Wakefield, and Why Him? So a comedy with James Franco and Zoe Deutsch.
Movie was average.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It was funny.
Yeah, I wanted to like it more than I did. I wanted to like Franco, but I don't know. He was obnoxious. That's the point, I guess. But I didn't find him funny.
I think it would have been more funny if it was the other way around. If like Bryan Cranston was the dad, James Franco had to like, he was the one being introduced to him, and
Kind of like a meet the parents type thing.
Yeah, he was more like the aloof, like Hal from
That's interesting.
Malcolm
Yeah,
in the Middle.
Like the dad sucks so much, the boyfriend's like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, I've seen Franco do that role so many times. It's like he's basically playing
Himself.
his
almost.
Pineapple Express mixed with like a couple other roles, but like I think it would have been a lot more fun if it was like Cranston and he has to like tell Zoe Deutsch, he's like, I don't know about your dad, man. That guy's a fucking wiener or something, something like that. So
my favorite part of the movie is Cranston's character. It's not quite De Niro from Meet the Parents, like neurotic dad, but not bad.
It's too cutesy.
So it's also just such an like, how many of us are like, oh yeah, my daughter is dating a billionaire? Like, I can't really relate to that.
No.
Let Judd Apatow write that script.
I like
and then
that.
I'll watch it. And then I'll watch it.
It'll be 2.5 hours, but I'll watch it.
And then in 2017, as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, he played Zordon, the new edition of the Power Rangers movie, where he wasn't shitting on the Blue Ranger, I guess.
The floating head.
There you go. Important character in the Power Rangers universe. And then our last category is largest audience gap, and that's 2017's The Upside, and Case has it.
The Upside is a 2017 drama directed by Neil Berger. Neil Berger also produced or directed The Illusionist, The Lucky Ones, Limitless, The Jury, Billions, and the Divergent series. Upside is a remake of the 2011 French film The Intouchables. The story behind these two movies was inspired by the lives of Abdel Salou and Philippe Pozzo de Borgo. This is actually the third remake of The Intouchables, accounting for the Telugu and Argentinian versions, which I had no idea about until I read that.
Wow.
The Upside stars Bryan Cranston, Kevin Hart, and Nicole Kidman. Cranston, who is clearly the star, plays a quadriplegic billionaire, Philip Lacoste, and he is coming off of two tragic life events that have no doubt left him disenfranchised. His wife recently passed away from cancer, and he was most recently paralyzed during a hang gliding accident.
What an idiot.
What a loser!
Why would you do that?
I'm alive, dead!
Kevin Hart plays Del Scott, who's a deadbeat dad and struggling to reform as a convict. As required by his parole officer, Hart's character must be trying to gain employment, and that's how he comes into Bryan Cranston's world. Hart thinks he's interviewing for to be the building's janitor. However, he's actually interviewing to be Cranston's caregiver or life auxiliary, as they call it in the movie. Had anybody ever heard that term before?
Life auxiliary?
No, not once.
This is where we're introducing Nicole Kidman character, Yvonne. She's basically Lacoste's personal assistant and executive to handle all of his business. She hates Del during the interview because she hates him. This causes Philip to hire him because he's mad at Yvonne for saving his life when he had clearly given do not resuscitate orders. He doesn't come off suicidal. He is clearly unhappy in life. There's two love stories going on in this movie. It's a love story about a quadriplegic and his caregiver, while also a love story between Cranston and Kidman's character. It's got great pace, well developed, really an easy watch. To me, this seemed like a big breakout role for Kevin Hart. I personally think Kevin Hart's hilarious, and I'll watch anything he's in. But this movie allowed him to play a real dramatic role while still being charismatic, charming, and at times moving emotionally. Cranston delivers exactly what y'all would expect out of him. At one time, he pulls off the crass, I'm better than anybody in the room act. But then within a couple of sentences, he's the hilarious guy that everyone in the room wants to hang out with. That's not pulled off very easily. Also not pulled off very easily, since he's a quadriplegic, he's only allowed to use dialogue and facial expressions to get his story across. I tried to find some interesting trivia and some other behind-the-scenes stuff on this movie, but really all I kept coming up with was that the producers of this movie were criticized for not casting a quadriplegic, and Cranston was actually criticized for taking the role. But Cranston even came out and said, it's kind of what actors do, right? Like we play people and aren't ourselves.
In regards to that, Bill Burr has a stand-up that came out, I think a year or two ago, that references that. He said, my buddy Bryan Cranston, he played a paraplegic in The Upside, and everyone gave him a ton of shit for it. Bill Burr goes on, he's like, well, it's because it's called acting. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that before. He's like, it's like saying, why didn't you have a murderer play the murderer? And the guy who got shot, I saw him alive in another movie. What's going on there?
It's hard to argue with Bill Burr's logic on anything, right?
I agree.
What would have been great for this movie is if Cranston was replaced by The Rock, and so it was, it was Kevin Hart with paraplegic The Rock.
300 pounds of,
And he still has how do you have all that muscle when you can't move?
Exactly. Yeah.
I worked out 6 hours a day for 20 years before I was.
I've been withering away for 10 years.
He's got the electrical sensors on his body at all times, just constantly flexing his muscles.
Those ab things people would put on.
Yeah.
The only thing he can move is his eyebrow.
Yes.
Smell what's cooking. Yeah. Craig, one of the reasons I read online, and I think this movie got shit on so much, is this is one of the last movies that Weinstein produced, and then all the reasons that he absolutely deserved to go to jail came out, and this movie was delayed. And everything was proven true about him, and then the movie came out. So I feel like critics were just itching to dunk on it, where it was like, oh, there's cliches. Really what they want to say is, fuck you, Harvey. Go to jail forever.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, Harvey, why didn't you cast a quadriplegic?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the most pressing question to ask Harvey Weinstein is casting issues.
Yep. I thought the movie was pretty good. The Untouchables, the French version, I think, is better. I don't think they did the story any injustices. They're two good, charismatic characters.
How similar
are the stories?
How similar are the stories?
Not really.
Not really. There's they take a lot of creative license with Cranston's story in this one, but
okay.
The original, the guy who played Kevin Hart's character is a pretty famous French actor, and he's phenomenal in that role.
Well, and the American version weighs heavily on cliche. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like deadbeat dad, gotta be the black guy. Nicole Kidman, gotta be an uppity white girl. It's just
mm-hmm.
that was my only problem with it, is it's very socially unaware of how aware it is.
But the original is also a largest audience gap as well. Even on IMDb, I know it was on the IMDb top 250 at one point, but it's got an 8.5 from users and only a 57 from the critics. So it's similar in that vein.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Case.
Yeah, man.
All right, we're going to wind down the rest of his career here. So 2017 to modern day. He is in 2017's Disaster Artist. He plays himself in a short scene where he essentially tries to recruit Greg Sestero's character to be a lumberjack on Malcolm in the Middle. Also 2017, he's in Last Flag Flying as Sal Nealon alongside Lawrence Fishburne and Steve Carell.
Great buddy flick.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah, I did too.
Yep. I didn't mind it either.
Richard Linklater, right?
Linklater doesn't make bad movies.
It was too much dark military references that I didn't get, where I was like, this is just not made for me, so I'm just going to watch something.
Not the target market. Curb Your Enthusiasm. He's in one episode as Dr. Templeton in 2017. I watched it. It's such a hilarious episode, and his banter with Larry David is so good in that episode, man.
It's great. It was cool to see him return to his comedic roots.
It's a subtle humor too. It's not.
It is. It's kind of like Tim Whatley. Tim Whatley in Seinfeld is one of those, like, he's not trying to be funny. He is just so random and awkward, and that's kind of how his character was in Curb too.
So that's a good point, because like from Trumbo on, it was all like serious. To me, that's an upward spike in his career. From that point, he did go back to the comedy for that, and it's nice to see that he still has those chops.
Yeah. 2018, he, again, some of the stuff he's done outside of just acting, he was a creator of a series called The Dangerous Book for Boys. I think it's only one season that I know of. And then he won another Best Actor award. He won the Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actor in London and the Tony for Best Actor on Broadway for his performance as Howard Beale in Network, as James mentioned earlier. Just killing it on the theater side. Then just a few more that we'll mention. 2018, he was in the Wes Anderson side in Isle of Dogs. He played Chief, which was a primary character in that movie. Did some voice acting. We see the long-awaited El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie in 2019, the one that they had rumored for a while and finally happened. He's, we don't really need to rehash his character, but he makes an appearance in the movie. And then in 2020, we see him in a movie on Disney Plus called The One and Only Ivan. He plays a character named Mac. That's kind of brings us to where we're at today. Because we mentioned he's in a lot of TV. Here are some of the other TV shows that he's been on is with recurring characters that are just good to mention. He was on the Louie Show, 96. He was in the Lilo and Stitch series. I assume that was on Disney.
Who could forget?
Right. He's played a number of characters over a 14-year span on Family Guy, so he's been in 10 different episodes. He was in How I Met Your Mother. He played a character named Hammond Druthers, 3 episodes. Robot Chicken, played a bunch of characters, 5 episodes over a 7-year period. And he was in The Cleveland Show as Dr. Fisk, Mr. Oxnard, and Graham Kensington between 2012 and 2013. In terms of just very brief television appearances, so 1 or 2 episodes, he did Baywatch, 89. I feel like that's a staple with a lot of the actors we've been talking about lately. The Flash, 91. Matlock, 87 to 91. We got Walker, Texas Ranger, 94. I watched a lot of Walker, Texas Ranger back in the day. Touched by an Angel, he's done some soaps. We mentioned One Life to Live earlier. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show, Clerks, American Dad, which we mentioned a lot with appearances, 30 Rock, and then The Simpsons, as we mentioned earlier. From a directing standpoint, he's directed episodes of The Office, Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle, and Modern Family. So he's done quite a bit. Rigby, do you have any top performances for us?
Yeah, I found a top 10 Bryan Cranston performances. This is TV and movies. I think we can all guess what number 1 will be, but this is from Deadpool 2016. He's the admin. I didn't really want to use this list, but then I looked on his IMDb profile, and he has like hundreds of these rankings for different actors. So the guy seems to know what he's talking about. So let's go off this list. Anybody want to start? 10 movies or TV shows.
Hal's got to be on there.
So Breaking Bad's number 1.
Walter White's number 1, right?
Definitely, yeah. That was pretty obvious, yeah, because that's
Hal's got to be number 2.
No, Hal is number 10. I wanted him to be higher. Oh. Yeah.
LBJ.
LBJ is number 2.
Shit list.
Shit list.
Wakefield?
Wakefield number 7.
Trumbo.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Trumbo's number 3. Power Rangers, no go for you, James.
Throw this list out.
Give us Seinfeld.
No, Wally's not on here.
Argo?
Shannon from Drive.
Oh, yeah, Drive. Yeah. Yep.
It drives on there? Nice.
Yep, number 5.
How about Madagascar 3?
Nope.
Dean Tano from Larry Crown.
Nope.
Sneaky Pete?
No.
Or is any of it voice work?
Oh, that's a good question.
No.
Last Flag Flying?
Yeah, that's number 4.
Oh, see?
So we got
one
6.
episode where his head explodes in the X-Files.
The paraplegic
No.
guy?
We got 6, 8, and 9.
How about 'Twas the Night?
Nope.
Damn it.
We're just
chance.
naming movies now.
All right, give us the other ones, Rigby. Tell us.
6 is Argo.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
8 is The Infiltrator.
Yeah.
And 9 is Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
What?
Yeah, I agree with that.
They have Godzilla ahead of Malcolm in the Middle.
I would have put Malcolm in the Middle in the top 5 if you're asking me.
Easy top 5.
We're going to get into the Munson Meter. So if you're a first-time listener, the way this works, each one of us gets a chance to rate the actor on a scale of 0 to 100 based on our own whims, but the general categories we base that on are longevity, how long have they been in the acting game, how consistent have they been. We look at their choice in projects. We examine their pop culture impact, their range as an actor, their awards footprint, if they have any other talents outside of acting, their personal life, their comedic chops, and their box office success, and any other intangibles that we care about as Munsons. So with that said, I'm going to start with Case.
Cranston's a tough one for me to rate based on how I've evaluated all of our different actors. A lot of his mega roles are coming from TV, and so it's a little bit tougher because one, he's not getting a ton of box office traction, and two, some of the other actors that we've rated are only movie with a few TV. However, I love that it seems like he doesn't take himself too seriously, but yet he seems very professional. For example, he appeared on Hot Ones. He's the first actor that has been on Hot Ones before we recorded. And then at the same time, he'll go on and do pressers, and he'll be Kevin Hart. He'll do an impression of Kevin Hart for the entire interview. That shit's really fun, right? And that's what I like to see. Yeah, I'm just going to give him a score of 75.
Okay. Warren.
The TV aspect of it, for me, that is 95% of his career in my book. I really hadn't heard of many of these movies. But, I mean, if you were to take the TV stuff out of it, like his longevity in film, it goes back a long ways, but notable roles in movies, I mean, he's really only been like 10 years worth of notable stuff.
Yeah.
Of all the actors who we've either covered or really any actor that I can think of, I couldn't imagine an actor that I would pay to see more do a show on Broadway.
Oh yeah,
he has the delivery. He's got the voice and the demeanor and everything that I think you can get in the theater. I haven't seen enough of his other movies that people have talked about. Like I know, Dan, you've gushed over some of the movies, and Rigby, you as well. I didn't get around to seeing them, but there's just something about seeing them in theater that is a little bit. It's just more raw. Unfortunately, it's not a theater podcast, but I'm still giving him credit for that. I would love to see him just get out of that like loophole that, I guarantee he's just a really, really goofy, just a really goofy guy. And so I want to see him lighten up a little bit in some of the roles. And I just don't know what that's going to be. He can do whatever he wants future-wise. He can punch whatever ticket because of Breaking Bad. So I'm going to give him a 77. And I really, really do believe like my favorite stuff of his is still yet to come.
Okay. Rigby.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. His TV stuff, obviously, Walter White's probably among the top 5 TV characters ever. Like I said, I haven't seen the show start to finish, but just based off the accolades and the cultural impact that show had, I think obviously we're a movie podcast, but he gets major points with me for that, for pop culture impact. He gets Seinfeld points with me because that's my favorite show of all time. And he's in some of my more memorable episodes. The movies that he's been in, like Warren said, not a lot, but I think the future for him, because I think he's been in that TV role that he'll always be known as Walter White. He really can't go back to TV, I don't think. So movies are the future for him. And I'm hoping that he can get some roles like Trumbo where he leads the way and gets a lot of, Best Actor nominations or Golden Globes or things like that. But I think he's obviously a very talented guy. He seems like he's got a good personality, like Craig mentioned as well. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Bryan Cranston an 83.
All right. James, I guess Munson, what do you got?
I have to take into consideration that your guys' show is called Munson at the Movies and try and respect that.
You specifically do not have to respect anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't have.
I was just saying that to be respectful. I was just saying that to be respectful.
Fair,
I don't give a fuck about it.
That's why we bring James on.
Case, you mentioned that he doesn't take himself seriously. I wish that he would. Dr. Rick, who's not a medical doctor, by the way, brings up the Broadway aspect, I could not agree more. There's one actor in the known universe that I would pay more to see, and I'll talk about him in just a moment. When I look at actors, they come in tiers to me. And at the top tier, you have Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, everything from My Left Foot to Phantom Thread.
Love Phantom Thread.
And he's got a huge career. Like, Phantom Thread is not a movie that I would watch until you tell me DDL's in it. And then, like, I'm suddenly magically tricked into it being one of the greatest movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just comes down to performance. When I look at Bryan Cranston, he's the next person on the tier for me. I've got Daniel Day-Lewis, and then I've got Bryan Cranston. And I'm not going to tell you it's because of everything that he's ever done. When I say that I wish he took himself more seriously, it's because drama is my favorite genre of film.
Yeah.
That's not to take away from his roles in the comedy shows like King of Queens. When he played Hal, his character Hal is famous. I mean, those are just a credit to his versatility. Mm-hmm. Honestly, there's no one better than him except for Daniel Day-Lewis, maybe. And Daniel Day-Lewis is 100, and Jack Nicholson's like a 94, which is just below Bryan Cranston to me. I'm going to go with a 95 for Bryan Cranston. And the only reason that he's 4 points lower than Daniel Day-Lewis is because the bulk, this is my respect for your show, the bulk of his just incredible performances. Like Walter White is one of the most polarizing characters in the history of television. Whether you've seen it or not, or seen the whole thing, if you've seen the first episode, the pilot,
yep, yeah,
you'll know. I mean, you just know that this guy's got everything that you need. He's a 95 to me.
I like it. Saying it with your chest too. I appreciate it.
That's right. Officially the highest score anyone's ever received on the Munson podcast in 22 episodes.
Well, how often do you have somebody like he's my favorite like working actor?
No.
Like Daniel Day-Lewis is not working right. Jack Nicholson's not working right now. So Bryan Cranston's he's my pinnacle.
The three actors who have flirted with getting there were Mahershala, Janney, and Lithgow. We're probably the three that we've covered, at least up to this point. Full respect, man. You're a Munson, and all the opinions count, except for Rigby's, because they're just kind of fair. So.
They're fair, yeah.
They're just fair. They don't count, but they are fair.
James.
You guys have covered it. Not to rehash too much, but longevity's there. He's won Tony Awards. He's won multiple Emmys for dramatic roles, but also one of the more iconic comedic roles in Malcolm in the Middle, a show that wasn't on for that long, but is still part of pop culture today. But when you talk about Bryan Cranston, what you really need to focus on is Breaking Bad. Walter White is one of the most iconic TV show characters of all time, a truly evil character, anti-hero, and it is because of how Bryan Cranston portrays him. George R. Martin, the writer of Game of Thrones, which is well known for its terrible, hard to root for and impossible to root for evil characters, was quoted as saying that Walter White is more evil than any character in Westeros, and it's particularly close. Watching his portrayal, Bryan Cranston's portrayal, immediately I got rehooked into the show, and because of that, I'm going to give him an 84.
Okay. I will round us out. I'm going to preface this. I'm going to give him one of the highest scores I've given an actor, and that's because in terms of awards, he's done it all. Other than win his Oscar, he's at least been nominated, but in terms of Emmys and Tonys, Best Actor, he's gotten noms for supporting actor in comedies for Malcolm in the Middle. So in terms of accolades from that standpoint, he's hits all the check boxes. I love what he does outside of just acting, his writing, producing, directing, theater, television, movies. He's, in baseball terms, he's a 5-tool player when it comes to that. So I love that, and that's going to counter and go into my score. A few things that really sold me on him. I thought it was funny in an interview at Oxford. He talked about how he got into acting originally because he wanted to impress and attract women, which I thought was refreshingly honest, all things considered, because most people would be like, I had a dream. And he's like, no, I just wanted to meet women. And it just turned out I was really good at it. And I appreciate that he's tried a bunch of accents over the years, some great, some not, but that's him going out of his comfort zone as an actor and trying different stuff. But the thing that really sold me for him is if you go to YouTube and you find he did a 60th birthday skit with Jimmy Kimmel where they basically mock like Sweet 16 television show, and it's him talking to his actual parents and like shitting on them because he wants an expensive 60th birthday. that just reminded me how funny he is and how good of an actor he can be. So with all that said, there's not much I'm going to knock him on, and I'm going to give him an 83. Warren, what does that bring us in terms of an average?
Well, guys, we've got a new number one.
Ooh, nice.
Bryan Cranston gets an 82.83, which is 0.6 higher than Mahershala Ali.
Look at that.
Wow.
The ring at the top.
Couldn't have done it without you, Dames.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
Very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair. Warren, what's he got coming?
He's got a TV show series coming out on Showtime. He is the main character, but it's a legal thriller that rips through all the strata of New Orleans society. He stars as a respected judge whose son is involved in a hit and run that leads to a high-stakes game of lies, deceit, and impossible choices.
So Breaking Bad too.
Yep. Minus the drugs, but just with hurricanes instead. The drinks, not the actual hurricanes themselves. And that's all he has coming up right now.
What's it called?
Your Honor.
Your Honor. Okay.
There was some fan art about them coming up with who the inspiration for the fan art for Dr. Doom was Bryan Cranston. And while, yes, Dr. Doom is like, if not the most important villain in like the Marvel universe, Bryan Cranston in that role is not what I want to see. I want to see a younger no-name person, just in case it sucks. I don't want him attached to it.
The biggest issue with Dr. Doom is that he's tied to the Fantastic.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, it's going to be the Fantastic Four, and they've just repeatedly shit the bed.
Just ignore them and just get Dr. Doom in there somehow.
They've really fucked the Dr. Doom thing, but I would get it. But I mean, he just kind of needs to stay away from that.
Yeah, I don't know if Marvel's really in the cards for him at this point, but who knows?
You know, it could go either way. Yeah. Really, it could be the good people at Marvel that know what they're doing. But think about DC, you guys. They have like two of the greatest properties in the known universe, and they can't get it right.
Yeah, Superman.
With Batman and Superman. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? This shit sells itself, and you can't put together a fucking decent story.
Yeah, they got Batman, Superman, and Marvel's rolling out Moon Knight, who like 99.9% of people have never heard of, but it's going to kick ass.
Well, think about Iron Man. When Iron Man came out, I was like, Jesus Christ.
James, what do you think about playing?
I'm excited for the opportunity. You know, I was a huge Moon Knight, as everyone is. And, you know, it's just good to get back to work and, you know, just feel normalcy. It's crazy.
That's the rumor. I don't even know if I think it's more than rumor that Oscar Isaac's going to play Moon Knight.
Right.
Well, it was they had Oscar Isaac, and then they also had Nick Kroll.
Kroll, get out of here. Fuck off.
A bunch of people were absolutely appalled at the possibility of him doing it. And I love Nick Kroll. I think he's hilarious.
Why not Pete Davidson?
He's in DC, bro. He's in Suicide Squad. He's good. He's fun. No, I'm intrigued by Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight. I think it can make a really cool story.
I have no idea who Moon Knight is, and so to go off of Warren's point, like Marvel's killed it so much that they're in like not even secondary characters. They're the fifth level characters and still churning out good movies, and DC can't get Batman right.
The great thing is Marvel, like, whenever they come out with this stuff and they're like, oh, it's Moon Knight, and they're like, well, people are like, I don't know who Moon Knight is, and they're like, well, according to, you know, footfuckers.com, Moon Knight is the 98th most important character in the Marvel universe, and then everyone's like, oh, I disagree with that list. Here's my list from, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I don't know who any of the people you've talked about the last 5 minutes are, so I'm out.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you guys, I just quick referenced footfucker.com. Don't do that.
There was one list that we had. It was a list, and it was like something foot related that Rigby pulled up one time.
It was definitely an OnlyFans account.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was called now.
Yeah, it's a running.
Actually, I take that back. There's some cool shit.
Please be sure to like and subscribe.
So for our next episode, we've got 5 actors generated from our mega list. We're throwing them onto the wheel. And those 5 are Greg Kinnear, Bette Midler, Alison Brie, Kathryn Hahn, and Daniel Kaluuya. What are our thoughts?
Not Bette Midler.
I'd be happy to do any of them. Yeah, Bette Midler is a little dated, but
that's
If
the
you
only
go-
one that
if you
makes
Beaches
Google
all the way, guys.
Beaches.
If you Google Bette Midler, Donald Trump is the 4th picture that pops up.
sick. Can't wait.
It's a weird combo.
I'd love to do Greg Kinnear because he's veered into like the Christian movies now. It's taken a weird turn.
Yeah, someone will have to watch Stuck on You.
Hey.
I want to do Kinnear though. That I'd like to do him.
I want to do Kathryn Hahn because I think she's hilarious.
Yeah,
and
she's very
somebody else will have to watch The Goods.
Oh, yes.
Just watch Step Brothers 6 times.
Kaluuya's great. He's got some awesome stuff for the past couple of years. And same
Yeah.
with Alison Brie. She's done some really cool and weird projects too. Like Horse Girl.
I loved Horse Girl.
She's got one of the Funny or Die videos with Dave Franco.
Mhm.
It's pretty good. It's called Dream Girl. It's like 4 minutes long.
Dames, who would you pick from these 5? Who do you like? You like Midler?
Oh,
Midler. So I want to hear you guys fumble around for 2 hours.
Yeah,
listen to me give a half hour on Hocus Pocus.
Honestly, of those,
That's
like
true.
my choice would be, if I had a choice, I realize that's not how it works, but Greg Kinnear, he's great.
As always, we don't make the decision. The wheel decides. And we'll see what happens.
The wheel decides, but Kyle also decides.
Well, Dames, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Do you have any plugs? I know you probably want to push the CF3 side a little bit, or anything on that front.
Well, we were trying to put together a comeback episode for Thanksgiving. But probably not. That's really not realistic. It's going to be around the first of the year, but Space Ghost might be our first video guest. I hope I'm not blowing that for Dane or Jeff. I know we haven't really decided.
Put the pressure on him, man.
You got about a week to tell us, and we can edit it out. So
Yeah.
just let us know.
You can put whatever. He won't care. Nobody will care. That's one of the ones we're working on. We're working on maybe Sean Whalen again for People Under the Stairs. Got a couple choices to make.
Okay.
Michael Rebauer is always fun. I want to do Garbage Pail Kids with him.
Ooh. Yeah, he's a.
So yeah, there's some things down the pipe, but we really don't have anything set.
Where do people find CF3?
CF3pod.com or on YouTube. I think it's the same. Just look up CF3, and we're the ones that are there.
Great stuff, great
So, yeah.
content. We've joined, a number of us Munsons have joined in the past, and so if you're a listener, go check out CF3 if you're a big cult film fan. It's the place to check out for sure.
Yeah, we stopped at 69.
It's a good
Right
number.
on.
Reminds me of Film
It's
Kitchen.
a really good podcast, Dames. You guys got a fun show.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Dames.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man. This was a
blast. You
Hey,
guys.
thanks, Sam. Appreciate
it.
it.
Really
man.
was.
Glad to have you, man.
Yep. Yep.
Our next podcast is going to hit on November 19th. We're bringing in Dane is going to make his return. He was our first ever Munson's guest on the Alicia Vikander
Oh, that's right.
episode, and Dane's coming back for a return trip. So he knows what's going to happen. He knows the deal at this point, and we'll see if it's somebody he's excited about. Guess we'll find out.
Is he a big Bette Midler fan? Does anyone on this pod know?
I'm sure he is.
Huge Bette Midler.
Usually those are the context clues, right? Like, who would they like from this list? Because they signed up
Right,
for it.
exactly.
So guess wisely, I suppose. But we're excited to have Dane back. He's a big friend of the podcast, and we love CF3, so always loving to cross streams on that front. You can always find us on Twitter at Munsons at Movies. You can find us on Instagram, Munsons at the Movies. You can email us, munsonsatthemovies@gmail.com. Any final thoughts from the Munsons?
Who are you talking to right now? Who is it you think you see? You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger. I am the danger.
Munsons out.
All right, let's go. Thank you for the education, gentlemen. We've just received a PhD in stupidity. Doctor, shall we?